In this video, we will be breaking down everything you need to know about your new or soon-to-be new Tenicor product. If you're looking for specific information, use the timestamps in the video description below to skip ahead to a specific topic about the product. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the Tenicor ABDO magazine pouch and everything you need to know about it. So what's the ABDO? The ABDO is an appendix carry inside the waistband magazine pouch. So it is intended to be carried drawn with your support hand, carried in like the appendix position. So if you're a right-handed shooter, drawing with your left hand and vice versa. This is intended for somebody who's carrying a firearm and would like to carry a spare magazine on their person. They come in a wide variety of different sizes. Currently, we produce the C, the D, and the E. Within the size range, they're mostly universal fit for a certain range of magazines. If you are curious about which size fits which magazine, refer to our website, link in the video description below. On that product page, there'll be infographics that have magazines that we've tested or know to fit in those said magazine pouches. That being said, the ABDO has quite a range of retention adjustment, as well as it comes with extra spacers included, so you can fine-tune the fitment of the magazine that you're trying to use the ABDO with. The ABDO features our discreet carry concepts made Tenicor designed T1 clip, which allows for subtle ride height adjustment as well as a huge range of cant adjustment as well. So you can really fine tune the fitment of your ABDO on your person. The ABDO is also ambidextrous, so you can swap it for left or right hand use. The fit and finish on the ABDO, in our opinion, we manufacture it, is superb. Most companies, for typically like cost saving measures, use a thinner Kydex, like a 0.08, which if you've ever used a Bolteron or Kydex product, you'll actually be able to flex it quite a bit. We use a 0.093 inch Kydex, so the actual structure of the magazine pouch is much stronger than a typical thermoformed product. The edges on the holster as well have all been buffed very nicely, so there's no sharp edges or anything like that that's going to either cut you or be an irritant when you're carrying it on your body. The way we've designed the ABDO is so it is as minimalist as it possibly can be while still having a few key features we think is important, like adjustable retention and a cant adjustable and ride height adjustable clip. Because it's so minimalistic, when you actually go to draw from your waistline, you can get a full proper grip when you're going to grab the magazine to reload it into your gun. So there's nothing extra in the way that's going to like block your hands or anything like that to make a more encumbered draw when you're actually using it. The T1 clip featured on the Tenicor ABDO, in our opinion, is the best attachment system on the market today. The T1 clip is incredibly durable and offers an incredible amount of flex with no bending. You'd have to really crank this thing out for it to actually bend. What's so special about the T1 clip is it utilizes this very aggressive cloth hook on the back. So once it actually fits underneath of a belt, there is little to no chance that this magazine pouch could actually be removed from your body in like a violent confrontation or in like you're grappling with somebody scenario and you want to keep your kit on your belt. The other nice thing about this, and we don't necessarily recommend it, but it is possible, because of the cloth hook, you can actually use this magazine pouch pretty well without a belt. If you had just clipped this to waistlines of like jeans or even sweatpants with some sort of thicker waistline, this thing is not going anywhere. It will stay on your person and it's not going to come off. Okay, so you just bought a Tenicor ABDO, and if it's the only thing you bought when you open up your Tenicor mailer, this is what will be on the inside. So this is how the ABDO comes packaged in this small plastic bag with a few things on the inside. We'll go ahead and open it up here. On the inside, you'll get the ABDO itself, and the T1 clip will actually come pre-installed on the ABDO in sort of a neutral position set up for a right-handed shooter. Also on the inside, you will get a set of slightly shorter spacers. These ones are 1/4 inch. This is intended for if you are using metal magazines or like slightly thinner magazines, you can use these to get a slightly better fit and feel with the ABDO itself. And these are also here. Feel free to use and play around with them and swap them back and forth for the original spacers. You might be able to dial in your fitment of your magazine pouch to exactly the way you want it. And we will be showing you how to install these later in the video. It also comes with a fancy Tenicor sticker, and then this product insert on the back, which has what it is, as well as a few things about the ABDO, as well as some brief instructions about how the cant and ride height adjustment works and how to adjust retention. It also has some information about how to contact us below if you have any questions or issues with your ABDO. Now we're going to talk about adjusting the retention on the ABDO. If you don't know what that means, retention, what I'm referring to, is essentially the fitment of your magazine. Do you want it more tight? Do you want it more loose? How do you want the magazine to feel going in and out of the ABDO? So you'll see we have 2 screws here. These are where you will adjust your retention. And all you'll need for that is a screwdriver. A Phillips head will work, a flat head will work, and you could also use a Robertson #1 bit. In this case, we'll use a Phillips head screwdriver. Cool thing about these screws, actually in a pinch, you could use the rim of a case on a live round or an expended round. Whatever will fit that long flathead slot will work. And of course, obviously, you have the Robertson bit and the Phillips head bit as well. So it's pretty straightforward. If you want the magazine to have a lighter feel going in and out of the ABDO, you're going to loosen it. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And it doesn't take much. So you can slowly adjust these as you want to get different fit and feel. And you can see that is a lot more loose than before. And obviously, if you want a little bit tighter of retention, you can just slowly dial it in until you get it to the point where it feels best for you. Another key point about adjusting retention that is a nice feature on the ABDO is that the posts that the screws actually screw into are fixed. So they will not free spin. So there's no need to have one screwdriver here and another screwdriver here to keep the post from spinning. Everything stays nice and secure, so you can freely just tighten or loosen it as you like. Now the next thing we're going to be talking about is how to adjust the T1 clip for ride height and cant adjustment. So when I say ride height, I mean the actual clip will move up and down, and that will change the up and down placement in your waistline. And what I'm referring to when I mean cant is the actual clip can rotate slightly and go at certain angles with the ABDO. So the actual magazine will fit at an angle inside your waistline. These are the 2 screws you'll be adjusting the T1 clip with. You don't need to take them out all the way. You just simply need to loosen them slightly, and that will free up the T1 clip. And as you can see here, the T1 clip with the slots on the actual clip itself allows for about 0.45 inches of actual ride height adjustment. And then it has a significant amount of cant adjustment, as you can see here. So that's about its maxed out point. So if this was in your waistline, your belt would be feeding through here. That's how the magazine would actually be oriented inside your waistline. So currently this is set up for a right-handed shooter. I happen to be a right-handed shooter. So as an example, if I carry an ABDO, for me, I typically like setting the clip up right about there. So once I have my clip in the position that I like, all you have to do is tighten it down. And one of the nice things about the ABDO as well is all of the screws that are on the ABDO from the factory come with thread patching on them. So you don't need to add any sort of additional thread patching or something like Loctite. You can if you'd like, or if you're constantly taking them off and on, you may want to add some more, but you don't necessarily need to do so from the factory. So now if we want to swap the clip to the other side, it's a little bit more involved, but it's still not very complicated. First thing we're going to do is start by removing these screws all the way. And because of how the blocking is set up on the ABDO, there are 2 square nuts on the inside that fit in blocking that will not free spin when you remove them. So you simply just need to unscrew these all the way, and it will free up the square nuts on the inside. There's one. Sometimes you'll hear them drop out. And we'll just go ahead and unscrew that one as well. So that frees up the clip, and the screws just fall out as well. You can see that the screws have thread patching on there, that little blue spot. And we'll just go ahead and tip out the square nuts. Our screws, as well as the square nuts used in any of the other hardware from the factory, we send them off to get a special finish done to them to help prevent rust and corrosion and things like that. It's actually the same finish that is used on the T1 clips. So now let's go ahead and attach the T1 clip on the opposite side. So we'll rotate the holster over, and you can see there's that same blocking down here at the bottom. A visual way to know if you're attaching it to the correct side: go from the opposite side of the wing. So you'll see this flat portion of the magazine pouch. If it is pointing at your right hand and you put the clip on like this, you are effectively setting it up to be drawn with your right hand. If you're putting on the T1 clip and this flatter side is pointing to your left hand and you put the clip on like so, you're essentially setting the magazine pouch up to be drawn with your left hand. So keep that in mind when you're putting on the clip. So in this case, we want to draw the magazine with our right hand, which is indicative of somebody who is a left-handed shooter. So what we're going to do is we're first going to take one of the square nuts and we're going to basically get it inside of its blocking down here. So we're going to go ahead and put it on the tip of our finger. We're just going to hold that in place, put upward pressure, and we're going to take our clip and sit it on top. And I like to take my thumb here and hold the actual clip down so everything's nice and contained. We'll go ahead and drop the actual screw in place, and we'll just go ahead and start it just enough to catch it so we don't have to sit there and hold that particular square nut again. And then we'll take the other square nut. I like to put it on my middle finger, push up, slide down, line it up inside the blocking. You can potentially see it there. Go ahead and take the screw and start it. And that will hold the clip in place and give you an opportunity to kind of experiment with the ride height and cant adjustment. So let's see, we're setting this up for a left-handed shooter. So let's go ahead and adjust it to about right there. That's probably a good spot. So we'll go ahead and tighten these screws down. And there you go. We have the clip where we want it. And once the screws are tightened down, it is good to go. One other thing you can do with the ABDO, it's not necessary, but you can do it, is you'll notice now that we have this set up for a left-handed shooter, our retention adjustment screws are on the opposite side. And if you'd like, this is reversible. So if you like, you can swap this whole setup to the opposite side. So we'll go ahead and do that. All you have to do is just take these screws out all the way. Just give it a good left-hand turn until they are removed. And as you do this, the actual rubber spacers on the inside will expand. Okay, so these screws are removed. And you'll notice these screws also are thread patched, but they're longer. So if you're going to do this, I would recommend doing one at a time so you don't mix up your screws. The shorter screws won't work in this, so you'll know pretty quickly, as well as these screws will fit in the square nuts, but they'll go too far into the magazine. It'll actually prevent your magazine from going in all the way. So do this separately. Now, we'll need to separate this because this is on essentially a double post. So I like to take index finger and thumb, separate it a little bit, pop off these spacers here, and that double post will just fall out. And now we'll take our rubber spacers and we will simply line up the holes just like this. And we're going to take our post, we're going to put it in the two holes right here, going the opposite way we want the screws. We're going to push that in until it is flush to the bolteron of the magazine pouch, or the plastic for simpler terms. Then we're just going to start the screw, give it a few turns, start the screw, give it a few turns. We'll go ahead and tighten this down a little bit. And you don't need to crank this down all the way. Remember, this is essentially your retention adjustment. So if it's cranked down all the way, you're probably not going to get your magazine in or out. So once it starts, give it a few turns. And then this is when you can dial in your fitment of your mag. So that's super loose, so we'll keep tightening it. And you can really tighten as little or as much as you want. And that's a little better, so we'll tighten it just a touch more to get it exactly where we want it to be. And that feels pretty good. It might be a little tight, so we'll just go ahead and loosen that just a smidge. And that feels pretty good. So now we have all of our screws on one side of the magazine pouch, so you can access everything without, it's just more of a convenience thing. That is also an opportunity to where you could use the shorter spacers it comes with. Typically for using a metal magazine, you probably want to use these. These will still most likely work, but you most likely have a better fitment with the shorter spacers here. But again, swap those back and forth as you like, dial in the fitment as you like. So now let's discuss where to actually carry the Abdo on your body and how to fit it so it's the most concealable and comfortable position for you on your body. Now, one thing you could do is loosen the screws and put it in your waistline and kind of move it around and then take it out and tighten it, but it's a little bit of a hassle, and we actually have an easier way to do it. It involves removing the clips and a pencil. So we have our pencil, and we have our screwdriver. This is the best way that we have found to fit holsters or magazine pouches, or frankly anything that goes inside your waistline. So what we'll actually want to do is remove the clip from the actual Abdo itself. So just like before, if you watched the adjustment part, we are going to remove the clip, and it'll make sense in a second. So clips removed, and we're going to set that stuff to the side, put it somewhere safe so you don't lose it. And then we have a pencil. So now let's take a look at how we use the Abdo without the clip and the pencil to fit it to ourselves. So I have my Abdo here with the clip removed. I have the magazine inserted that I'm going to carry with it. And then I have my pencil. So what we're going to want to do is go ahead and put on like a typical pair of pants for yourself that you'd wear carrying a firearm. Go ahead and thread through your belt that you're going to be carrying the Abdo with, or a gun and a holster. One thing I like to do that you may notice is I'll wear an undershirt that's tucked in, and then I'll have my layer of guns or whatever gear is going on the inside of the waistband, and then my shirt will go over this. For the purpose of this, I will not have a shirt that will go over this. I'd recommend having a shirt that goes over so you can also not only test for comfort, but also for concealment. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to take the Abdo without the clip and the magazine inserted, and we're just going to put that in our waistline. Now, this is where you'd put a shirt over it, you'd move it around, figure out where it's most comfortable, things along those lines. For me, an Abdo is actually with a little bit of cant, and about right there is perfect for me. And I would have my gun here. I'm a right-handed shooter, so this is where I'd be carrying the Abdo, so I can draw it with my hand just like this, and vice versa if I was a left-handed shooter. So now this is where the pencil comes in. You can see here there's a little bit of the actual magazine pouch exposed, and what I want to do is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark where that actual spot on my waistline is, as well as if it was in the way, you could do vertical marks for the clip so you know that, okay, my clip's actually going to interfere. In this case, it won't, because it'll actually be sitting most likely just about here by this belt loop. But if it was like right in the middle of the belt loop, because it only has one clip, you'll have to kind of potentially sacrifice a little bit of comfort to actually get it set up to where it'll work. So keep that in mind. Belt loops are going to be different on all types of pants. Another thing to consider, the Abdo typically is not as comfortable the closer you go to center line like this because of the blocking that makes it ambidextrous. It helps push the magazine into your body, but it really wants to fall in a specific spot. So really that V of your leg is a great place to start if you're kind of having trouble figuring out where to put it. So we have mine marked and ready to go, but you can see there's a clear mark there. We also use a pencil in this. You could use a pen or anything that marks the magazine. We use a pencil just because it's easy to erase. I personally actually keep the mark just so I can, if a clip accidentally came loose or moved, I know exactly where it needs to be. But if you'd like, you can erase that. All right, so now we are back over on the bench with our Abdo that has this nice and bright pencil mark on it. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to take out the magazine because we're going to have to install the clip. The idea is that pencil mark will actually give you a really good idea of where your clip is going to want to fall. So obviously it's not straight up and down for me. Rotating it to where the actual parallel here lines up here will give me my cant adjustment. You can see it's actually a lot farther than what I would think. And then right-eyed adjustment as well. Ideally, like this would probably be too much, so I'm actually going to want to bottom this out as much as I can. Typically, this line you'll want as basically as close to this top part of the clip as you can. The adjustment here is bottomed out for me, so we'll go ahead and call this good right here. But that gives me my perfect cant adjustment. So now we'll just install the clip just like before with that pencil mark in mind. That's giving us a reference point. And obviously, if your reference point isn't exactly where you want it to, you can always do it again. You can erase the pencil mark and you can redo that whole process. So we're going to just start that clip, put the other square post on the inside, and we'll go ahead and line that up where I want it. So probably I'm going to go about here, which is because this line isn't perfectly straight. I'm actually going to go right about there. And then we'll just hold that in place and tighten it down. And now we have an abdo that is fit for me. And of course, I can always adjust this, wear it around if it's not comfy. I can make micro adjustments in the right height or whatever works best. So now we have our abdo set up perfectly for me. Now, the next challenge with the abdo, if you're new to discrete carry concept clips, is that these are much harder to put on than a general kind of standard plastic cheap clip that you would see. So it's a little bit of a workflow change. Once you get used to it, putting on a Tenicor product with a discrete carry concept clips is really fast and it's pretty easy, to be honest. And there's a few different ways that we can attach it onto our belt with ease. So the key to this is you're going to want some sort of leverage. So you're going to take the heel of your hand and you're going to take your fingers and grip underneath of where that clip is. And we're going to basically use this in a way to pry open that clip pretty easily. So the reason why they're so hard to get on is because of that cloth hook on the inside. If you could see, we essentially want that to go completely underneath of the belt. So if this was my belt and this was the bottom of the belt and this was my cloth hook, we essentially want that cloth hook to wrap all the way around underneath of the belt so it doesn't slide up. If you don't put it on properly, or if your belt's thicker, it's probably going to be sitting on the bottom, which is not ideal, but most likely won't go anywhere. And if you put it on improper, one, the clip will poke out, compromising concealment, as well as it would be much easier to actually pull the abdo out. That being said, the cloth hook is very aggressive, so if you did make a mistake, it's probably not the end of the world. So while utilizing leverage, what we're going to do is we're actually going to heel of my wrist, grab the actual little lip right here of the clip, and we're going to simply take my thumb in my opposite hand. I'm going to make a little space in my belt line, kind of get it generally where I want it to be. I'm going to put the actual magazine pouch in the waistline. Now I'm going to use that leverage. We're going to pull up. I'm going to pull up on my waistline while pushing this down, and I'm actually going to let this rest on top of the belt. Next thing we're going to want to do is just simply kind of straighten it up to where the top of this is parallel with the belt. Take both of our thumbs, push here. We're going to press straight down until you hear that click. And now the abdo and the T1 clip is properly installed over the belt. If it was not on properly, if I rotate, you can see the clip actually sticks out quite a bit. And this is when it's on proper. So you're going to have less of a snag point. It's actually not going to come off of the belt line at all if someone were to grab it or if you go to actually draw the magazine. So one other thing to cover about that, if I'm a right-handed shooter and I'm carrying a gun on my right-handed side, typically tails of belts go opposite the direction of the gun. So I have this real estate right here, one layer of belt, perfect for sliding on a gun in and out. I do have the tail that is on this belt running behind that is actually making the belt on this side thicker. Now, if you're using one of our Tenicor Zero belts, this one happens to be the underbelt, which is a little bit thicker because of the Velcro than the traditional Zero belt. We actually designed these belts to where double layers of tail, depending on how thick your waistline is, will most likely fit the T1 clip actually going over both ends of the belt. Now, if your pants are really thick waistlined, it may not work. You may end up in that situation where the actual hook isn't completely under, but it's like kind of halfway under, which isn't ideal. It'll still work, but it's something to keep in mind. So if you're having trouble getting it over the tail and the actual belt, don't worry. I'll show you a way right now of how to circumvent that. In this particular situation, the tail of our belt is actually behind, which is nice because it keeps it lower profile. You don't have a flopping tail, and you don't have to worry about attaching it to Velcro, which makes this even thicker and this harder to do. So essentially what we want to do is we want to attach this, in this case, to the tail, which is behind our belt. So if you have a different type of belt, or we're going to try to attach this ABDO to the rearmost layer of webbing on our belt. So what we're going to do, this belt's already loosened, but you can loosen it just a little bit to make this easier. We're actually going to stick the ABDO right about here, and I have a tiny bit, and I have about 2-3 inches of tail that I can attach to. So I'm going to take my index finger and I'm going to put it in between the rear webbing and the front webbing to create essentially a pocket. And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to insert the ABDO partway through. We're going to get our leverage, and we're actually going to start the clip on the back end of the belt. We're going to line it up, and then we're just going to push straight down with those two fingers where we're holding up our waistline. And that is, as you can see now, the clip is behind, attached to the actual tail, which makes it, in some cases, much, much easier to put on than actually going over 2 layers of webbing. So now we can simply adjust our belt as we need to, and there you go. So that's how you attach it over 2 layers of webbing or a normal belt. Your belt might be really thin, or if you're just trying to attach it to the thinner side. And then when we go to take off this belt, in this case, the tail's actually what's holding it. It pops through, and it's now simply just grabbing my pants. So I can just do the same thing. I can use leverage, lift up, and pull off. So just remember, at first, putting on the ABDO might be a challenge, but once you get used to the workflow, it's really easy. So take the time to really practice it. Remember, leverage is your friend, and starting it on the belt, pushing it down is also incredibly useful for putting on the ABDO or anything with a discrete carry concepts clip. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. You can always visit our Contact Us page on our website. Shoot us an email, and we'd be more than happy to help you out with anything regarding your Tenicor product. Thanks for watching. Check out our channel for some more videos. We have playlists on our YouTube page if you're looking for videos on our other products, as well as training videos and much more. If you found this video helpful, leave a like and subscribe to our page to stay up to date on all things Tenicor.